Simon of Cyrene is a figure who appears briefly in the Gospels, but his role in the Passion of Christ carries profound symbolic meaning that resonates through the ages. He is remembered as the man who helped Jesus carry the cross to Calvary, a simple act, yet deeply significant spiritually. Who was Simon of Cyrene? Why was he chosen for this task? And what does his story teach us about service, compassion, and faith? Simon of Cyrene's story is mentioned in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke. In Mark 15 verse 21, we read, "A certain man from Cyrene, Simon, the father of Alexander and Rufus, was passing by on his way in from the country, and they forced him to carry the cross." This brief description gives us clues about his identity and the situation he found himself in. Cyrene was a city located in present-day Libya, in North Africa. During the Roman period, there was a significant Jewish community in Cyrene, and Simon was likely part of it. He was in Jerusalem possibly to celebrate Passover, a time of pilgrimage for many Jews of the diaspora. It is significant that he was coming in from the country, suggesting that he may not have been aware of what was happening until he was drawn into the events. The scene where Simon appears is one of the most intense in Christ's Passion. Jesus, after being brutally scourged and humiliated, was forced to carry his cross to Calvary. The weight of the wood, combined with physical exhaustion, caused him to fall along the way. It was at this moment that the Roman soldiers compelled Simon to help. It is important to note that this act was not voluntary. He was forced by the soldiers, as was customary in Roman executions. Though he was forced to carry the cross, Simon of Cyrene's act has deep spiritual implications. He may not have known it at the time, but he was directly participating in the greatest redemptive event in human history. The cross he helped carry was the symbol of Christ's sacrifice for the salvation of the world. Continued in the next response. The mention of Simon of Cyrene in the Gospels highlights the idea that he represented all of us. Just as he was called to carry Christ's cross, Christians are called to take up their own crosses and follow Jesus. Luke 9 verse 23. This call is central to the Christian life, symbolizing the willingness to bear one another's burdens and live in obedience to God's purpose. The inclusion of details such as the names of Simon's sons, Alexander and Rufus, is unique to Mark's Gospel. These names suggest that Simon's family was known among the early Christians. In Romans 16 verse 13, Paul mentions a man named Rufus, described as chosen in the Lord, and his mother, whom Paul regards as a mother figure to him. While not definitive, many scholars believe this Rufus could be Simon of Cyrene's son. This would indicate that Simon's encounter with Jesus had a lasting impact, possibly leading him and his family to faith in Christ. Simon of Cyrene's role also teaches us about compassion. He was placed in a position where he briefly shared in Christ's suffering. This act of bearing the burden, even if initially imposed, transforms into an act of solidarity. It serves as a powerful reminder that when we help others in their struggles, we reflect God's love through our actions. The story of Simon of Cyrene also raises questions about the impact encounters with Christ can have on our lives. Though his experience was brief, direct contact with Jesus at his most painful moment likely left a profound mark on Simon. He carried the cross physically, but the spiritual and emotional weight of the moment may have transformed his heart and perspective. Moreover, the figure of Simon of Cyrene reminds us that God can use anyone, even in the most unexpected circumstances, to fulfill his purpose. Simon was simply passing by, coming from the countryside, with no intention of getting involved. Yet he was called to play a crucial role in the divine plan. Continued in the next response. Simon of Cyrene's presence on the road to Calvary also symbolizes the universal call to empathy and sacrifice. Jesus did not carry the cross alone, and Simon's involvement reminds us that suffering can be shared, alleviated, and even transformed by those willing to help. It is a call to be Simons in each other's lives, helping to bear burdens that often seem overwhelming. Simon's story also challenges the notion of control and planning. He was not there because he planned or desired it. He was chosen by chance amidst his routine. This reminds us that moments of profound spiritual impact often arrive unexpectedly. Just as Simon was compelled to participate in a life-changing event, we are called to remain open to opportunities for service, even when unplanned. Another significant aspect is that Simon of Cyrene was not part of Jesus' close circle. He was not one of the disciples or frequent followers, but an ordinary man. This reinforces the message that God's grace and the call to service are available to everyone, regardless of position or status. Finally, the act of carrying Jesus' cross teaches us about humility. Simon could have resisted, argued, or complained, but he accepted the task given to him. This reminds us that moments of profound spiritual meaning often require us to let go of pride and take on a role of service. Though Simon of Cyrene is a figure who appears briefly in the Gospels, his role in Christ's passion resonates powerfully throughout Christian history. He reminds us that even seemingly small roles can have an eternal impact. His willingness to carry the cross, though initially forced, became an example of compassion, service, and faith for all time. If you liked this video and want to know more about the characters that surrounded the life of Christ and formed the rich biblical story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and send this video to your friends. Turn on notifications to know when new videos come out.